Shout out to Dark Triad 715. I want to use this IcySide Chats video to answer a couple of questions that was posted in the comments by Dark Triad 715. Peace, peace. So the first question is in regards to there being a such thing as false light or a reincarnation trap. I can neither prove nor disprove the false light or the reincarnation trap, but I do understand what they say about it in terms of that being like a you being caught in a never-ending loop of having to come back here and not going into one of what is called the light when you enter the portal, and it's like a portal that leads you to the other side, and they say don't go into the light because the light just becomes really another waiting room, and you're entering the world as another womb, through another womb to be born again, is what that reincarnation and false light thing is tied into. But what I can prove about it really comes in a redefinition of it, a little bit of a redefining, where the false light, you have real knowledge and fake knowledge. You can have information and disinformation or misinformation. These kind of things can represent a false light that can be proven, scientifically proven. We can scientifically prove that people get deceived and led astray. These are principles that are connected to false light. Now, as far as reincarnation, how do we make that applicable in our daily lives? Since we can't prove whether or not a person is coming back, what we could do is, and this is optional, we can embody the spirit of a particular archetype or, a hero, a role model, something like that, where it's like you're the second coming of this person or that person. Like, you take hip hop for an example. Many will look at Nas like a second coming of Rakim, like another more lyrical, but he wasn't rhyming with the same style or whatever as Rakim. There was no imitation or emulation there, but at the same time, it was like coming back to be a part of a particular thing that is rare. And if you come and you're rare, for the sake of categorization and just the human brain trying to understand things, even the rare ones will be put into the category of rare. So these things can tie into a visible reincarnation that you can prove every day. We can't prove whether or not when we die, we come back in other bodies. I can neither prove nor disprove this. So I can't say that that's true nor false. But what I could do is just work with the principles of it. And, I say that it works in that particular way where you can reinvent yourself, where in that way it won't be a trap. And then what is our purpose here? In the most non-judgmental way, our purpose here is to exist. If we're here, the idea of good and bad, good and evil, right and wrong, these are all subjective when we look at the course of history. So it's really not my place to say that a person should be here to do good or should be here to do bad. I think that that's subjective. I know essentially from a general consensus standpoint, we would want one another to do good for the sake of making it a better place. So this would be looked at as our purpose here. But then in the next part of the question, it said if good and wrong or if good and bad are parts of the one same thing, then why should we do good? Again, yeah, it becomes subjective at that point. It becomes open for a person to choose whether or not to do good. If we were to enforce that on a person to say, why should you do good? Any becauses that come after that would be tied into some religion in most cases, or something, dealing with karma, like, well, because it comes back to you. That would be one of the closer things that is probably easier to prove on a tangible level, like you reap what you sow. I think that pretty much sticks as a truth that can be proven. So that deals with that. So there is no answer to Why should we do good? Because that's subjective. That is really on a case by case basis. No matter how many collectives might be grouped under one side of that. And then you have the oneness that you said. Is it because we are all one, and when we hurt others, we hurt ourselves? That goes into oneness and unified consciousness. So that could apply there. That's coming out of the unified Christ conscious part of the new age, and is also coming from the golden law of reap what you sow. So this is intertwined in religions also. In regards to things like superpowers, reality shifting, teleportation, telekinesis, and all the superpowers, reality shifting, that can be proven on a subjective basis, because again that ties into we reap what we sow, and that goes into visualization, and it goes into another thing that we call self-fulfilling prophecy. You ever notice whether a person believes in something or not? It's like, I said it and it was going to happen. It's like, yeah, it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. That's accepted on both the religious and the secular schools of thought. So that one is pretty much looked at as provable. Teleportation, you look into the Philadelphia experiment, and they say teleportation happened there in the Philadelphia experiment. As far as telekinesis, you look at the CIA documents, different type of operations there, and other superpowers that are connected to CIA. So they're really one of the main people you want to look at when it comes to the superhuman stuff and the paranormal, because they're starting to declassify more and more documents, which means these things are being made available possibly at this point on many public domains for open research. So the answers to these questions are very optimal given the age that we're in now. 20 years ago, I wouldn't have been able to answer any of these questions because it was a different world then. But now, yeah, these things are, if they're not able to be proven, then technology in the course of things certainly seems to be heading toward supernature, to say the least. And then the last question Dark Triad 715 had is, how can one learn these superpowers if there are people in the world who offer them to help teach these things? And again, what I said in the comments, I'll say here too on the icy side. Look into all schools of thought related to the left-hand path. Left-hand path is considered anything that's not orthodox religion. So out of the big three, the Abrahamics, right? Out of Islam, Judaism, and Christianity, anything beyond this will be pretty much considered left-hand path, or what you would call unorthodox. But in these things, and in those other ones, the Abrahamics, you do have each of these things alluded to, but it'll be easier to understand, and they're delved into with more detail on the left. And it's going to involve researching what a lot of people would consider forbidden topics, like vis-a-vis witchcraft, black magic, quantum mechanics, quantum physics, quantum theory, and the other things that were mentioned. These dig into the idea of these things not only being possible, but being put into a certain kind of research that will make it operable and put it in full operation, perhaps in a very short span of time. So again, I thank you for your questions. I appreciate the support, and it was a pleasure. It was a pleasure to touch on these topics. I hope I touched on them in a way that, there was information and tools to use with what was said here. So again, it's Super T Sigma of Sigma Programming. Continue to stay encouraged, motivated, and inspired. Peace.